and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Now, you may have thought I got off lightly yesterday with Liz Desch's puzzle based off roping in the grid. Well, I'm assured I'm not going to get off lightly today. This puzzle is apparently extremely brilliant, but quite difficult. It's called Never More Than 4, and it's by Exion Risk, and I don't think we've ever featured a puzzle by Exion Risk before, so this is a new constructor. And I do approve of Nevermore in the title, because if you've been following the channel for any amount of time, you will know that I am a passionate fan of Edgar Allan Poe's poems, and in particular, The Raven, which I think I even read out at the end of one video. Anyway, I'm not going to get distracted with ravens and not the least a basement matey or anything like that. Not an instant stopped or stayedy, but with me in the floor. No, I'm not going to do it. In fact, I'm going to read you the rules fairly quickly, I think. Do I want to mention anything? Well, we're continuing to appeal to try and get us up towards 400,000 subscribers. We are really, really close. And if we do get there, it will be tremendously exciting for us. And we will make this special video where we're going to answer community questions. So if you do have a question for us, email it to us at crackingthecryptic@gmail.com. Other than that, just a quick appeal as well. Have a look at the apps. We've got lots of apps. They're all brilliant. And I say that honestly, they are all brilliant. Yeah, we're working hard on the new app as well, which is coming along very nicely. Yeah. That's all I've got to tell you. Let's get on with the puzzle. What have we got? We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits along an arrow, sum to the digit in that arrow's circle. So normal arrow rules. So what that means is we add up that cell, and that cell, and the result we put in the circle. Clues outside the grid give the sum of the digits along the indicated diagonal, and digits can repeat along such a diagonal if allowed by other rules. So that means that, for example, let's look at the 20, that's the longest one I think. These 7 cells, when we add them up, we've got to get to 20, but we can repeat a digit, which is a good job, otherwise we couldn't do it. So for example, if that square is a 1, that square could be a 1, that square could be a 1, and that square could be a 1. That would be completely legitimate, although we'd have to make sure that those 3 cells added up to 16 for it to work. What else? We've got one more rule. The digits in each cage, when added together, digits cannot repeat within a cage, sorry, and the digits in each cage, when added together, sum to the same total for each cage. Wow. So that means that whatever those 4 cells add up to, let's say they added up to 12, that would mean these squares add up to 12, and these squares add up to 12, and these squares add up to 12 as well. That's all there is to it. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And, well, I'm going to have a quick look at some obvious stuff here, but I will say straight away that this does look very redolent of a pattern that I think was first discovered, or at least used in a Sudoku I solved by Ard van der Wetering. The brilliant constructor from the Netherlands whose puzzle features in our most popular video, which I think has been viewed some ludicrous number of times, like 7.5 million times. And that is related to these 2 squares I've drawn in the grid, this 5x5 and this 4x4. But let's just see if there's anything else going on before we go down that track. I'm not seeing a great deal I can do here. I can obviously think about these arrows. This arrow, this arrow, this arrow, and this arrow are all occupying the same row or column of the grid, and therefore they must contain different digits. So if we think about those 3 cells there, the minimum we could make these 3 cells add up to is a 1, a 2, and a 3, i.e. a 6. So each of these 3 circles has to be a 6, 7, 8, or 9. And that one can't be a 9, which means immediately I'm wanting to put a 1 on this arrow. And the reason for that, if there is no 1 on this arrow, the minimum it could be would be 2, 3, and 4. And 2, 3, and 4 sum to 9, which that can't be. So this definitely has a 1 on it. 27 in 4 cells. That implies that those digits are all relatively high. I mean, 27 by 4 is quite close to 7, isn't it? So these need to average very close to 7. And that is actually immediately a bit interesting, because these two cells here can't be that massive because they're on arrows. So the highest digit you can ever put on a 3-cell arrow is a 6. So if these were 2 6, they can't be, that can't be a 6. Here we go. So the maximum size of that square is 5, and the maximum size of this square is probably 6. I can't see why that can't be a 6. That's 11, which means these two squares have to add up to at least 16, which means they include a 9. And these are either 7 and 9, or they're 8 and 9. So that is a restriction. Now, I'm just going to check the 20 diagonal, because that was a 7-cell diagonal. Well, it is a 7-cell diagonal. So it's averaging just under 3, isn't it? But actually, if we look along this diagonal and think about each of the cells individually, there's not really many restrictions on them. So in particular, let's ask, is it possible to rule 1 out of any of these cells individually? I think the answer is no. I think it's no anyway. Can I rule out 2? I think the answer is no. Can I rule out 3? No, the answer is no again. So I think this diagonal is actually not very constrained. 20 and 4 cells is averaging 5. That is the most useless average to get in a little killer clue. Those two squares, I suppose we could pencil mark that. That's either 5 9 or 6 8. Those two squares have to add up to, well, we don't know what they add up to, because we don't know what the box adds up. Okay, I'm suddenly thinking about this. That's reasonably large. So that if we had a 1 and a 2 in those squares, this cage would add up to 17. So these digits together are adding up to at least 4 times 17, which is 68. And I'm wondering, maybe I can use that with the geometry trick somehow. So that means those squares add up to at least 68, if I remember the geometry trick correctly, which I might not be. Is 68 difficult in those squares? I suppose before I go up and think about that, I should at least explain what I'm talking about in terms of geometry tricks. What I'm doing here is noting that if we highlight the final 5 rows of this Sudoku, bingo, like that, we can note that we now know the exact collection of digits that appears in the orange cells. We don't know where those digits go exactly, but we obviously know that row 5 contains the digits 1 to 9 once each. The same is true of row 6 and row 7 and row 8 and row 9. So these 5 rows together contain 5 sets of the digits 1 to 9. Now, let's look at the last 4 columns of the grid and ask a similar question. What do we know? What digits do we know now appear in blue somewhere? Well, each column will contain 1 set of the digits 1 to 9. So the blue cells represent 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. So at this point, we've got a collection of orange cells, which are 5 sets of the digits 1 to 9 in some order, and a collection of blue cells, which are 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9 in some order. Now, what would happen if I removed those cells from orange? What do we know about these cells? Well, they're a complete box of the Sudoku, so they are 1 set of the digits 1 to 9. So if I remove them from orange, now I know that orange contains 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9, and blue contains 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. And what would happen if I removed that cell from orange and from blue? Would that change anything? The answer is no, of course. If orange and blue contain the same set of digits, and they do at the moment, and I remove the same digit from both sets, then it's still true to say that once I've removed that digit, orange and blue are still the same. And I can do that for all of the cells that have two colours. I just remove them from orange and from blue. And this is why I was looking at this pattern before, because we now know that blue and orange are the exact same set of digits. And we know that blue adds to at least 68. And therefore our challenge, I suppose, is to check that it's possible for this collection of digits to add up to at least 68. Well, it's obviously going to be possible for it to add up to 68, but how much higher than 68 can it go? That is the question. So, how are we going to go about this? This one can't be a 9. This one can be a 9. So if we max them out, we'll max out the arrows. So we'll make that 9, and that 8. And that's not going to deal with this cell. But how many have we got now? We've got a 9 there, a 9 here, and a 9 here. That's 3 lots of 9. 4. That's 5 lots of 9. That's 45. Plus 2 lots of 8. That's 51, 61, 61. And what did I have to get to? 68. So this is very constrained. This is, in fact, that can only be a 7. So it's just totally forced. Because I'm just seeing that this, if I can't make these, if these are 8 and 9, which is the maximum they can be, this has to be a 7 in order to get the oranges up to the right number. Well, when I say the right number, I mean the absolute minimum they can be, based off and that's based off those two squares being a 1 and a 2. Now, is there any other disposition of orange digits that's going to get us as high as 68? Well, no, there isn't, because although I could, in theory, increase this digit here, if I increase this digit by 1, say, let's make this 8, the consequence of that is that I have to reduce this digit by 1, but that doesn't, this coming down by 1 affects the total by 2 negatively, this cell and this arrow. So although I've gained 1 here, I've lost 2 from the arrow. So that's inefficient and I can't get to 68 anymore. So actually this I think is completely forced. I'm just going to check the maths again. I've got 3 lots of 9 there, 2 lots of 9 there, that is 5 lots of 9, that's 45. Plus 16 is 61, and that then has to be 7 to get to 68. It's correct. That's really gorgeous, and I think it's going to be helpful because now these two digits have to be a 1-2 pair. We now know that each cage is summing to 17. Now, what else do we know? That's the next question we're going to have to grapple with. Do we know what I'm wondering is, have I got some way of knowing the composition of the orange digits? Or is that a pipe dream? Because if I knew the composition of the orange digits, I'd then obviously know the composition of the blue digits. I suppose the other way of asking this question is, do I know the composition of the blue digits? But I can see no way of knowing that particularly. I suppose if I know that those 4 squares sum to 20, and I know that these 8 squares sum to 2 lots of 17, which is 34, then I know those 4 squares sum up to 14. Those two can't be a 1 or a 2, so they have a minimum value of 7. So these have a maximum value of 7. No, okay. I've got 9 here. I hadn't seen that. So that's not 9, so that's not 5. Oh, I've got 6 here. Oh, Sir Simon, use your scanning. No, that's totally useless. Okay, sorry. I was getting distracted. I think probably this is where we're going to have to focus. So, how shall we do this focusing thing? is there anything we can say about anything here? 9 has to be in one of these 3 cells. It's really perplexing, actually. How am I going to get any sort of grip on... Oh, right. Okay. Hang on a minute. I think I've got to use the fact there's got to be a 1 on this arrow. I'm suddenly noticing that wherever this 1 goes, it's going to force one strut of the 9 arrow. Because if this is a 1, that has to be a 2, 3, 4. Oh, I've got it. Oh my goodness me. Or at least I've got something. I've got something. My brain is slowly clicking into gear here. If this is a 1, this has to be 2, 3, 4. Now, what I'm noticing about that is whichever way, wherever the 1 is, I don't know where the 1 is, it's either here or in this domino, it's forcing a 9 arrow, which is preventing this from being a 6, 5 pair. Because wherever, if this is a 1, this is 2, 3, 4. If either of those are 1, this is 2, 3, 4. So the highest digit I can put in that cell, the one that has the 2, 3, 4 on it, is a 4, not a 5. So if this comes down to 4, I need to get to at least 17. Yes, so this has to be 4 and 6, because I cannot make these squares higher than 17. So these 2 squares have to be at least equal to 10. And one of them is a 4, and the other one cannot be greater than 6. This is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So this is a 4, 6 pair. Whoops, 4, 6 pair. And this is an 8, 9 pair. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I don't know. Is there some way I can use this one as well? I don't know. So if this is 6, 1, 2, that's a 1. This is 2, 3, 4. And now this arrow, so this is 6, 1, 2. Hang on, I'm getting confused here. So then I couldn't put 2. Oh yeah, maybe that's the point, is it? Yes, it is. I see. Good grief, this is really beautiful. So the fact there's a 1 here means that we know the composition of these 6 cells. We just don't know which way round they go. But the key point, I think, is that if this is, well, whether this is 4, 3, 2 or 6, 1, 2, it has a 2 on it. This has a 2 on it. Now that means that this 9 arrow can't have a 2 in those squares or that square. So it's not 4, 3, 2 and it's not 6, 1, 2. This is 1, 3, 5. Okay. Now, what does that mean? This is 1, 3, 5. So does that mean I know something about the composition here? So if this was 4, 3, 2, that would be a 3. This would be 6. Oh, maybe it's the 8 arrow now. Does this come into its own? Oh, goodness me, this is really complicated. Oh, okay, well the 8 arrow, because there's 2s on both 9 arrows, there's not a 2 on the 8 arrow. So the 8 arrow is 1, 3, 4. Good grief. And that does it. Wow. Oh, this is absolutely lovely. Now I know. Once I've proved the 8 arrow is 134, and I can do that because I've worked out it hasn't got a 2 on it, now this arrow can't be 432 because both of those squares would have to simultaneously be 1, and you can't repeat 1 in a column or a box. So this is not 432, this is 612, and, well, we know which the 6 is because we need the 6 on this 27 diagonal. This is a class puzzle, it really is. Now we can get rid of the 1 from there, that becomes a 1, that's not a 1. These squares have now got to be 4 here and a 3-2 pair, which means there's no 3 in those squares, which means there is a 3 here. Okay, and that means inter alia, that, oh yeah, okay. Well, actually it means those 3 squares are a 139 triple just by Sudoku. We've got 193 here and 319 there, so the only places for 1s, 3s and 9s in row 4 are these 3 squares. But what I was going to say is that we now know the exact composition of the blue cells, which might be useful. Right, okay, one thing I'm seeing is that if we look at the orange cells, we've got 1, 2, 3 3s in the orange. Now there's no 3 in this 2x2, and that means every other cage there must have a 3 in it. So there's no 3s in any of those cells. Probably isn't very helpful. Let me think, what other digits have we got here? We've got, see, we've got 3 1s as well, but because we know there's a 1 in this 2x2, we don't know how the 1s are allocated. We know there's 2 1s in the other 3 cages, but that's all we know. There's got to be a 1 in one of those squares by Sudoku. Why have I got 4? No, this is not 3 4, is it? That's 2 3. Have I just messed up all my logic? No, I haven't, because I didn't use 4s. I just said there were 3 3s. 1, 2, 3, that's still true. And I said there were 3 1s, that's still true. And I hadn't got as far as 2s, which there are 2 of. One of which is here. So I can have 1 more 2 in these cages. Gosh, this is really tricky. I'm not sure what to do, is the truth. Let's label up some of these cells. We've got 5, 7 and 9 here. And some digits there that have got to be 6, 7 and 8. Ah, so now I know those 3 cells, I suppose. Because I've got a 139 triple there, these squares have got to be 2, 4, and 5. And that's not 5. And that's not 4. And that's not 2. And now these squares are a 6, 8 pair to complete box 5. Okay. So those squares up there are selected from 1, 2, 3, and 4 only, just to complete this column. What else have we got? I don't know. I've got 2 9s, 1 8. I've got 2 9s, 1 8, 1 7, 3 3s, 2 2s, and 3 1s. Hopefully that number of cells adds up to 16. That can't be a 6. So I'm not really sure what to do here. I think probably what we've got to do is somehow maybe this little killer clue. I'm far from sure about this though. What is the way to get a grip on this? don't know is the short answer. Let's have a look at this diagonal. Let's just see whether or not we can limit this somehow. Maybe I can get rid of a 9 from this square, given this has to be relatively high. So let's put minimum values in for each of the cells on this diagonal and just see what the minimums are. That has a minimum value of 3 because it sees 1, 2 in its box. This has a minimum value of 1, I think. That has a minimum value of 2, I think. That can't be 1. This square has a minimum value of 1. So, if this was 9, we'd have... No, it breaks immediately. That's not a 9, because we'd actually get to 20 with just those 4 cells. We wouldn't even have to consider those. So that's definitely not 9. So this now is reduced to 1 or 3. Let's keep going with this minimums idea then. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 15, 16, 17. That's annoying. That's really annoying. So that means this one could be, it can't be 3, it could be 4. But it can't be 5. I don't think it can be as high as 6. We'd lose too many degrees of freedom. Let's just double check. 6 here, that would be 12. Those would be another 4, 16. No, that's already 20, and we've still got that digit to come. So this digit's quite restricted. That can only be 2 or 4. But it's still far from clear exactly what this means. It was going really well as well. There's an 8 over there. I feel like that's a bit of a desperate spot. So 5, there's only one 5, there's only one 6, and one of those digits is here. Do we know anything about that digit? Don't know. I'm wondering if I can force the 9 into this cell somehow. Oh, I can. Oh, Simon. I was trying to do that in the most silly way. I was trying to force the 9 in here because I was noticing these 2 digits had to be quite low, and I was wondering if I could force this to be a low digit so that this had to be a 9 in order to get up to 17. But what I could have done is just learn that that was a 9. That removes a 9 from there. Now I've got a 1-3 pair in this thing, and that means that that square's a 9 by Sudoku, because we know they were a 1-3-9 triple. And that means... Oh, that's almost so good. That means there's a 9 in one of those 2 cells. I've now got 4 here. So these 2 squares have got to add up to 13. Okay. Why is that 3 in the corner of the cell? I don't know. So these are adding up to 13. They're either 9, 4, 5, 8, or 6, 7. And I think all of those are probably possible, aren't they? 6, 7, 5, 8, 4, 9. So, what about those 3 squares then? Those 3 squares have to add up to 8. And this is a 2 or a 4. So if this is a 2, this is a 1-5 pair. And that would be a 1 and that would be a 5. And if this is a 4, this would be a 1-3 pair. So this square has to be a 1 or a 3 or a 5. And it's not a 1 because there's already a 1 here. So this is a 3 or a 5. So the 1 of those squares has to be a 1. It has to be this one. That might be a breakthrough. Now I've forced a 3 into this domino, so there's no 3 in those cells. No. Or maybe, actually, hang on. I've got to put... Yeah, okay, let's do this. I've got to put 3 3s in blue. Well, let's count how many I've got there. I've got 1 here, 1 here, and I can't put any more in those 2 cages, and there's no 3 there, so this needs a 3 in it. It's got to go there. And that means this square's got to be a 4 in order to make those squares add up to 8 plus 9 is 17. Good grief. Now I can get rid of the 4 from these squares. Let's get rid of the 3 pencil mark as well. This 4 is giving me a 5 here and a 2 here. Now these 3 squares are known to be... no, 4, 7 and 8. I was about to say 6, 7 and 8, but it's not. It's 4, 7 and 8, I think. And these squares have got to be 5, 6 and 9. And that's not 6. Okay. Now these squares are now adding up to 5, so these squares add up to 12, and they're not 3, 9. So they're either 4, 8, or they're 5, 7. So this square on the 20 diagonal is getting a little bit more restricted. In fact, although this was averaging 5, it is getting a bit more. These 2 squares definitely can't even reach 5. It implies the other 2 digits are going to have to be a bit higher, doesn't it? And those had to add up to, what was it? They had to add up to 13. So these can't be 5, 8 now. If these were 5 and 8, there would be no way of making this domino add up to 12, because 5, 7 and 4, 8 would be ruled out. So that's not 5, 8. This is either 4, 9, in which case the 9 can't go there. So it's either 4, 9 like this, or it's 6, 7 like that. Okay. Do we have a way of learning? If that's 7, do we break this diagonal again? If that's 7, let's take the minimums in each other cell. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 16, 20, that would have to be a 0. That can't be right. That's not 7. So this is now 4 or 6. And this now can't be a 6 anymore. Because if the 7 here went with a 6 here. So this is down to 7 or 9. Now maybe this diagonal. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. I'll try not to. That would be a disaster in terms of the microphone. So if this is a minimum, if that's 4, 6... No, if that's 4, I need to go high, don't I? I can't get there. If this is 4, I could go 3, 9, 3. But that's only 15, that's not 20, so that's not 4, so that's not 8. I feel like I'm right. I'm very close here to forcing something to work. In any number of ways, actually. I just need to... How many 4s? Oh, there are 2. 1, 2. So I've got 1 4, and either this one or this one is a 4 in the box. Oh, sorry. Either of those 2 is a 4, but one of them must be. How many 5s? 1 5. Oh, and that could be here or here. Wow. I haven't got a clue what to do. Can we somehow, if I can get rid of another digit from this diagonal, if this is 8, no, that's fine, you know. If that's 8, you could accompany that with I don't know, 7 or 9, and it will work. And if that's 5, I need these to add up to 15, and I can do it with 9 and double 3. Good Lord. Okay, I'm really sorry if there is something obvious I'm missing here. This is not straightforward, for me at least. Maybe I can restrict this square, because if I go pure minimums for the rest of this diagonal, 4, 5, 6, 7, 13, and another 4 is 17. So this has to be 1, 2, or 3. So somehow I've got to either use this diagonal, I think, assuming I'm not missing any Sudoku, which is very possible I am, but I've either got to restrict this diagonal or in conjunction with this diagonal somehow. And in each of the first 4 positions on this diagonal, you get a sort of binary choice which removes a lot of the degrees of freedom. So if you went 6 here, 7, 8, 9, 15, yeah, it does. It removes all degrees of freedom. So anything that affects the first 4 digits here and forces a high digit forces the whole of the rest of the diagonal to be minimumed. Now, does that matter? Yes, got it. Right, okay. That is really, really clever. This is really, really clever stuff. At least I think I've got it. I think this square can't be a 1. I think. And the reason for that is look what it does if we put a 1 here. If you put a 1 here, you've got to have a 1 in this domino in box 1. And that's aligning with the 1s down here, shifting the 1 in box 7 over there. And the only point, the quick thing that I was noting when I spotted that this had to be a 1 is that this now cannot be a minimum digit anymore. It cannot be 1 because the 1 in box 7 is shifted over here. So this is not 1. But we also know if this is 1, this has been jumped up to a maximum. This is a 3. And we said that if any of those 4 squares get maxed out at their top value rather than their lower value, the whole of the rest of the diagonal has to be minimumed, i.e. we're going to need a 1 in this square. And this is why I don't think this can be a 1. So I'm just going to check. If this is 3, now let's minimize the rest of the, well, let's minimize all of the rest of those cells. So 3 plus 4 is 7, 9, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, so I need this to be a 1, and it can't be because of this 1 here and its effect over there. That's really, really gorgeous. And I could see nothing better than that. So I think that's a 2, and that's a 1, and that's a 1, and that's a 3, and that's a 2, and that's a 3. And suddenly we might be in business. Let's look at this diagonal now. If those 2 squares have to add up to 15, I think that means they have to be 7 and 8, and they have to be in that order, which makes this a 9 and this a 5. And this now, we can just add this up so that it works. That's a 4, and that's a 6. Oh, hang on. Let me just go back. That's a 6. Well, if that's a 6, now this diagonal has to minimize again. But this time it can, presumably, because the 1's in a different position and it's not going to be in this domino. Yeah, look, this is going to work. 6, 1, 2, 6, 3, 1, 1. And I hope this diagonal now is legitimate. And it is. It does add 20, and it's going to resolve lots of pairs as well, which might be handy. This 1 is resolving those pairs as well. We've now got 4 1s looking at box 1, so that's going to have to be a 1. Now we might be able to tidy up some of these pencil marks now as well. We can get rid of 5 there. Ah, that square's become a naked single. That's a 5, and that's a 6, and that's a 9. One of these 2 squares is a 9 now. What can we do the same with 4s and 7s and 8s? Maybe. Get rid of 7 here, get rid of 8 here, get rid of 4 here. I don't want to speak too soon, but I think, oh no, yeah, no, I think we have done all of the sort of little killer, cage and arrow logic. I think now this should just, I say just, it should just be Sudoku to try and crack the puzzle. That's a 6 naked single. That's a 4 naked single. Oh, okay, I think that might have only been possible since we got this digit, so I don't think I've missed anything too glaring there. This is not 8, this is not 7, this is not 5. Okay, still not quite resolved though, is it? So where do we look now for our breakthrough? We've got 4 ones looking at box 9, so that's a 1. So this column, look, needs 5, 6 and 7 into... where does 6 go in the column? It's got to go here. And this is a 5 or a 7, and that's giving us a rather nice thing. I'm just noticing if I could type in this row. I now need 2s, 3s and 4s into the gaps, so that's 3 or 4. That's 2 or 3, and that's 2, 3 or 4. It's still not giving up. So there's definitely a 2 in this domino is what we're learning. There's definitely a... so 6 is now naked single in box 7. We can place it. That means 6 we can place in box 4 as well. Now what should we look for? 4. Look, 4, yes. 4 in box 7. Where does it go? I think it can only go here, which means that becomes a 3 and that becomes a 2. 4... Oh no, it's still not giving up. 4 is in one of those squares. These squares here have got to be 3, 5 and 7. Some order. 3, 5, 7. That's not 3. Okay, that doesn't seem to have quite resolved itself. Let's maybe have a look down here though now, where we need 4, 5 and 8. So this is the only place 4 can go in that column. This is a 5 or an 8. This column needs 2, 7 and 8. So this is the only place 2 can go. I don't believe it. I have a bad feeling that this might require more logic, you know. I have a bad feeling about that. Let me just take a stare at this, because I can't see how to resolve any of this. I'm going to end up penciling marking the whole grid here, I fear. Just give me a second. I feel like there might be something going on with 5s, 7s and 8s around here somewhere, but I can't quite spot it. Let me just have a think about this. Is it true to say that there is anything... I'm looking for a Y-wing, that's what I'm looking for. I'm failing miserably to spot one if there is one. Don't know actually, maybe there isn't. There is a 5, 7, 8 Y-wing there. So if that's an 8, that's a 5. If that's a 7, that's a 5. Ah, yeah, okay. Is that right? Those 3 squares? Starting to go crazy, but if that's a 7, this is a 5. If this is an 8, this is a 5. So these 2 digits, which see both of those digits here, we know one of these is a 5 in the finished grid. So neither of those can be a 5. And that gives us a 3, 7 pair, which actually seems to resolve the Y-wing. So I'm going to fill that in and hope that it does do something. Gets rid of a 7 here. This square now, there we go. Now in this column, I can ask where 3, 7 or 8 go. and this square has to be an 8. Now, that may actually have I may not have needed any of the complicated logic, in which case apologies, but anyway, it was a little bit of a digression, and it was quite exciting, and it's given us some stuff to go into the grid, so that's good. 8 here means that's a 7 now, that's a 5, and that's an 8, that's a 9, that's a 5, that's a 7. Now, please just finish. That must be done. 7, 8, 5 go in those squares. Right, we now need 3s, 7s and 8s here. That's a 3 or a 7. That's just a 3. Great. 3, 7, 8, 4, 7 go into the grid. 4, 9 goes into the grid. 3, 2 goes into the grid. 2 goes into the grid, and 5 there. Yes. Wow. Wow. Well, I may have got off lightly yesterday, but that was really hard. I mean, there's so much brilliant logic in this puzzle. I cannot tell you. I mean, it makes very, very clever use of this identity between the blue digits and the orange digits. And I really had to, I really, really liked the way these 9s and 8s arrows interacted regarding the 1s, 2s. That was absolutely beautiful, and it allows you to actually work out the exact composition of orange, which I then had to use incredibly carefully up here to sort of try and narrow down. I had a bit of a ricket with the 9, the 3-1-9 combo. I could have got that 9 much more quickly, but even allowing for that, there was still, I'm sure there's a cleverer way of resolving this 20 diagonal and this 20 diagonal. I found that very difficult. Although the trick I found with the 1 going here was actually very beautiful. So it is possible that Exion Risk intended that. I don't know. Hopefully Exion Risk will watch the video and hopefully leave us a comment to let us know. But what a debut that is. What a debut. Take a bow. Exion Risk, take a bow. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.